Alice Anderson is best known to the fans of this podcast as Mary Ingalls Kendall, but she also had roles in films such as Happy Birthday to Me, Midnight Offerings, and has been on iconic television shows such as Fantasy Island, The Love Boat, and even before Little House, she played Millicent as that little blonde girl in The Brady Bunch. Over the years, she has continued to appear on television and to author her own book. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me, and welcome to the show, Melissa. How are you doing?
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
I also want to say thank you to Mike Purdy, who sent you an email asking my plead to come onto Walnut GroveCast, and you said okay.
Yeah,
sure.
Mike's a great guy.
He seems nice.
Very nice guy. Yes.
So I guess first and foremost, when you think back to Little House on the Prairie, when you're playing Mary, what were those first early memories of the set like? Like the ones that you kind of remember, because you were very little, so I'm aware that you're not going to really remember too much of it. But it must have been like a lot of chaos getting started, because there was a lot of buzz around the entire show and the creation of the pilot, and of course Michael Landon being such a Hollywood star.
Right. Well, it was, yes, I was young. It was very exciting. I mean, incredibly exciting. And the pilot was brand new to me, because I had never done a pilot before. I'd never done a 2-hour movie, television movie before either. And so it was all new and very exciting. And we shot in Stockton, California, which is not the greatest place to shoot, but and it rained and rained and rained and rained and rained. But I think was it like February or something. So it was the rainy season. And then we also shot in Sonora, California, which is snowy and picturesque and nice. So nicer. I shouldn't say Stockton isn't awful, but it's just not the greatest place. And we went on to work in Sonora over the years. We would shoot there at least once a year, I guess. So it was fun to meet everyone and
jump into a full production. I mean, it's
sorry,
and you're jumping like into a full production. I mean, this is like a legitimate. I mean, that first pilot I mean, I don't know when was the last time you watched it, but it's not even like the TV show. It's big. There's a lot to it.
Right. Yes. It was daunting, it was, and again, it was just kind of, I think everybody probably felt the same way, because I don't think any of us, except for Michael, had done a TV movie like that. And except for, actually, I should say the twins. I think the Greenbush twins had been in the movie of the week, Sunshine or something. So is that what it was called? In the Sunshine? No, I don't know. Sunshine on My Show. Anyway, the John Denver story. So they were probably the only ones that had really, and they didn't know what they were doing. They were like 2.5 or 3 or something, for 3. So, but we were all new to it. And I think, it probably made it easier for him as director too, because he could tell us to do whatever he wanted us to do, and we knew we were going to do it, and of course we would always probably anyway, but we knew no better. So there were I remember in Stockton we did I think we, of course, had to manufacture our own rain, even though it was always raining, because the actual rain doesn't show up on camera. And we were in this terrible rainstorm or something for a scene, and they called cut, and it was finally good enough. And we went back we were able to go back to our trailers, and Karen, that was when Karen Grassley walked up the stairs to my trailer and opened my door for me because she saw that I couldn't do it. I was so cold and I was shaking and I couldn't get the door open. And she was so kind to do that. So it's just, it was things like that. you don't expect to work with people who, you find out what people are like in the worst of circumstances right away,
Right,
and she was terrific.
And you're just like nice. A little kid and you're shivering, and you just
I was like really cold. It was really cold, and she was just as cold, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But she did that. It was just very kind, very nice.
Now, were you a fan, or were you aware of the Laura Ingalls Wilder books at this age, or was this all like kind of new territory to you?
No, I knew. I think at my age, at the time, everybody had read those books. I don't think I knew a kid who hadn't.
I grew up with them as well.
At least knew of them.
Yeah.
Maybe some boys maybe didn't read them, maybe.
Yeah.
But really everybody knew of them for sure.
And afterward, like, have you gone back to the books and do you have a collection of them? Like, is this the type of thing, like, you kind of went deeper into the books and reread them because you kind of became a part, like it or not, a part of the, like, Laura Ingalls Wilder universe, like you're a very important part. I mean, all of these actors, they're all just a part of the history of the entire thing, whether it be like the actual people in the books or the people who portrayed them, I think.
Well, I actually have a leather-bound set of the books, actually, because I have a leather-bound collection of different books and like the 100 greatest and things like that. And so I did get them because I thought, well, like you said, I'm kind of part of that.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually gone and reread them. I did read them, as a kid, all of them. And our show was very loosely based. I shouldn't say very, but loosely based on the books and that's what really caused the big rift between Mike Landon and Ed Friendly, who was the co-executive producer of the pilot, because Ed Friendly wanted to stick religiously to the books. And Mike Landon knew we would never have enough material if we did that. And it had to be just based on the books. And so they had their parting. And I think it was dramatically, creatively better. I think everybody thought that Michael's decision was the right one.
Well, he knew what he was doing, right? I mean, Michael Landon
went on that way.
Michael Landon certainly knew, like, the business at this point. I'm sure Ed Friendly did as well. It's just they had different visions. But Michael Landon, I think, knew how to do the big show.
Yes.
Obviously, right?
Yes. He knew. I mean, he had the secret to success at that time. I don't think he necessarily always did or always would. I think it's kind of up and down. You do and you don't. But he was successful, of course, as an actor. But at that time, he really had the secret sauce. He knew what was going to work. And I think NBC, again, I was a kid. I don't know that much about it. But I think NBC was probably really behind him because I would imagine they trusted him because he was, and he turned out to be right.
Yeah. Now Ed Friendly would go on to kind of try his own thing with the Rose Wilder books with Young Pioneers,
right?
Which people don't know about this show. It's a very short-lived thing. It's a couple movies,
right?
But that's like almost,
I don't know anything about it either.
Oh, okay, I didn't know if you did.
Sorry.
I have not sat through it. I have them. I haven't found the time to watch them, but I hear they're pretty good.
No, I never saw them either, but yeah, I don't know. I think it would be tough. It's sort of like, everybody, I think they're still trying to bring Little House back.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I don't think it's the right time.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, again, it's kind of like, it's kind of like a lot of other things, some things are just better left and not redone. Little House would be tough to redo, I think. But maybe with more time in between, even more time in between, at a different time, I think our society these days is having, is so,
everything is so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just don't think it's the right time.
Me
in
either.
My opinion. But.
And as far as I know, it's shelved for the moment. I think.
Oh, really?
It was supposed to be a Netflix production, and I think for over a year now, it's been kind of shelved. I don't know if they even cast it, to be honest with you. I mean, I would watch it. I guess I would check it out, but.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It would, and I wish everyone well. It's not that. I don't know. I just don't feel like it's. I just don't feel like it's the right time.
I say a big fat no. That's what I say.
So good for you.
Thanks. It's the official stance. What about anything from the show? Did you have the opportunity to keep any scripts, or sometimes I'll ask previous cast members if they were able to keep any artifacts. I don't mean did you steal anything. I mean,
right.
Like did you?
Well, and I would have had to too, because they were very stingy.
Really?
Well, with me anyway, I didn't stay to the bitter end either. I was contracted to do 7 full seasons and 3 shows the 8th season. Because my character had gone blind and I was really limited in what I felt I could do as an actress. And so,
sure.
So I wasn't there, all the way to the bitter end. So maybe I would have gotten something. Maybe they would have said, is there anything you'd like? But no, they were just, yeah, they were really cheap. One thing, I mean, Michael was very creative and a good guy, a great guy. But as far as running a show, I think they were very cheap. I mean, they put the money into the show. The show looked great.
It's not necessarily
it didn't look cheap.
Yeah.
It, I mean, it wasn't that. It was just wardrobe and hair and makeup, and I don't know. It just always felt like it could have been better, newer, nicer. With
a few more, with like 10% more in the budget, maybe everybody would be more comfortable.
Yeah. I when I went on to work on other shows, I realized that, gee, it could have been nicer. Yeah.
I can have air conditioning.
So,
yeah.
So, but scripts, of course, I have,
that's awesome.
Certain ones, I kept, so that's nice.
I think stuff like that's
as far as
awesome.
I would have asked for if I could have. They were keeping it. They actually told me they were keeping it. It was going to go to stock wardrobe and stuff. I didn't want my dresses. I'd had enough of them, but maybe my shoes. I might have. They were made for me and everything. I might have liked to have the boots, but yeah, it was all going to go to wardrobe stock, I guess. So
yeah, like the glasses, I think would be such a cool thing for you to have, so people can call you Four Eyes. And
yes, my glasses. That's a good point. That would have been nice. Yeah,
I think glasses kind of are an iconic part of Mary.
That's right. I'd forgotten about those. Yes, those I would have liked to have those.
Yeah.
So anyway,
they're somewhere, right? They're like in somebody has them somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, what about you have adult children now? So Little Mary has adult children now. So what do your kids think of Little House? And, when they were younger, is it something that you kind of said, hey, I want to show you this and you can see mom on TV? Or was it like something where you're like, maybe they weren't into it?
They were not into it. They were not into it at all. I was going to say they couldn't care less, which is totally true.
It's totally fine.
But it's not that they didn't like it. They've seen more than a few probably episodes. They've probably seen, I don't know, 6 or 7 or something episodes, maybe. Maybe my daughter's seen a few more than that. I'm not sure, but, yeah, they, I don't know. They really weren't interested. What was funny though, was that they both went to French school, the Lycée Français de Los Angeles when they were young. And then they went to the Lycée Français, it's called Collège International Marie de France in Montreal.
Oh yeah, because you lived in Canada for a while,
teachers
right?
Were just, they had grown up, but not grown up, but they had watched with their kids. And so they were really into it. So the kids loved that their mom was whoever they said I was.
Oh, wow.
They loved that. So, and they would come and, they'd jump in the car and tell me, who found out today, guess what, Mom, so-and-so, didn't know. And they would tell me, and they were that really made their day. So that was fun.
I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. They love that. They really love that. They loved having teachers, and it was so big in France. That was the thing too.
Still is.
That it was so popular there that they were just their teachers were just thrilled. So anyway, yeah.
Do you speak French?
That was fun.
Do you speak French?
Not well. No.
Okay.
I can read it pretty much. It was a little tough in Montreal for me, because whenever I would get up my courage to try to speak, I would usually end up picking someone who had a Montreal accent, like a Quebecois accent. And I then couldn't understand. I could understand it, but I was like 2 minutes behind. I would realize, oh, that's what they said. And maybe not 2 minutes, maybe a minute. And so it was awkward. I was too timid to speak. So, but my kids they're great, and they can understand every accent. So it's fine.
I'm so jealous of bilingual people.
Yeah, me too.
So fans of Little House, they kind of know two different Marys, maybe three different Marys, but the two Marys that people talk about the most are like the sweet Mary on the show who's making pies and sewing shirts and studying all the time. And then there's like the badass Mary who gets called like a Jezebel, and then you tell off the old lady, or you're yelling at Gil Gerard for making eyes at Ma, and
right.
about like monkey business. What was more your speed? Like, which was the one you were more comfortable playing, if you can recall that at all? Kind of like, which one is more like Melissa Anderson? Who's this?
Well, I've always been shy, so, and I did want to do well in school. So, but I do have a temper. But so I'm probably in between.
Okay, that's fair. So it's like maybe you're both, Another thing that if you watch the entire series, which I'm going to guess that you have not done forever, or if ever, your hair goes through a transition, right? Oh
yeah, well that's true.
Your hair goes from like the Marsha Brady style, and it goes to like being very short as soon as the character goes blind. It's almost like they cut, or you cut, or I'm not really sure what went on. Like, were you going through like the regular stuff that people were going through, like outside of it? Like people were just chopping the hair off in the 70s and 80s.
Well, yeah, it was even worse actually than what you're describing. I had short hair, and they then had to make a fall for my, a long wig and a bun and so it was in a bun, and it just, the way they styled it, it looked awful. The way they styled it, if you looked at it just straight on, you didn't even know I had a bun. It just looked like I had like this round helmet on my head or something. Ugh. Oh, it was so bad.
Wait, when you were little, you had long.
If I'd realized how bad it was going to look, I wouldn't have cut my hair. I would have just left it. But yeah, I wanted to change. You go all that time where you can't act like a teenager. That when you finally can, I wanted to. So I did it, when I only had a few episodes left to do. I should have waited. I knew it was going to be okay because Karen Grassley had short hair the entire time. So I thought, they do it with her, they can do it with me. But I'm really, really sorry that they did it.
Don't be sorry.
For how it looked on the show. Yeah.
I can only think of one time where your character had a crazy wig on. It was just like, what is going on with Mary's hair? And I think they did the same thing with Alison Arngrim with the crazy hair. And I don't know, maybe the wig people just had it in for y'all or something.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Oh, a lot of it, it's face shape and everything. And I don't think they took all that into account. I don't think they cared. I think they just wanted the hair to be realistic.
Yeah.
And the right period and all that. But you have to kind of also go with someone's face shape and, what looks good on them, and it's not a one size fits all kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, it was unfortunate and I brought it on myself. So, oh, well.
Hey, that's life.
Yes, that's right.
So, all right. So after Little House, like post Little House, you definitely embrace different looks. Also, if I've seen a few more recent photos and it looks like you've grown your hair out. So you've definitely, chosen like a more straightforward look now, but in the 80s, you were definitely going towards a more modern style.
Yeah.
And like in Happy Birthday to Me and Midnight Offerings, which I recently watched for the first time, and I thought they were like really highly entertaining. I don't know whether you look back at these kind of movies and you're kind of like, oh boy. But they were definitely interesting. They're kind of like a mixture of slasher and like paranormal movies. But do you recall the response that you got after doing these movies? Because they came out within about a year of each other.
Well, Happy Birthday is actually a cult classic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really like, it has a kind of a once a year almost, I guess, kind of thing where it's in theaters, for a few, not many, but it's or in, I don't know how they do it, but anyway, for like a day. And it's very big in the cult world, I guess. But and then Midnight Offerings, gosh, I haven't seen that in years. And I haven't seen Happy Birthday either. But yeah, Midnight Offerings, I think is that right?
I want to say 81.
I'm trying to think if it was written by, it was written by the, I think she was the executive producer and writer of the Rockford Files. I don't know
I'm looking it up right now. Writer Juanita Bartlett.
That's it. Right. It was written. Yeah, it was written by her.
Yeah, Rockford Files and Greatest American Hero.
Sorry?
I'm sorry, Rockford Files as well as The Greatest American Hero.
And I loved The Greatest American Hero. I love that. I thought that was a great idea.
Me too.
And I loved Rockford Files. But so I kind of, one of the reasons I did that movie was because she wrote it, because I liked her writing very much. And it's
a fun movie. I mean,
and it was fun for me to to play that character, to be something.
Now, in that you have Mary McDonough, which I will never be able to pronounce her last name
McDonough. That's
McDonough.
Right. It's McDonough.
All right, I'm going to commit to this, McDonough.
Yeah, and I know I'm right too.
I know.
It's McDonough.
Yeah, McDonough. All right, I'm going to do my best. So Mary McDonough, who played Erin on The Waltons, was
right.
So it was kind of like Little House on the Prairie versus the Waltons, right? Because it's the last season. I mean, it's both Little House is going off the air and Waltons is going off the air. So was it promoted like that at all, or did you hear about that at all? Because you guys are enemies in the movie.
Yeah, I don't remember, to be honest. I don't remember. I don't think so, but I don't remember.
It would have been a great tie-in, I think. Erin versus Mary.
Well, I know they do that. I think there's groups of, Little House fans versus Waltons, and which was better,
Yeah. But this is legitimate.
Yeah, people get into this stuff.
This was the legitimate fight here. You have Erin versus Mary. Come on.
That's right.
So I just have a few more questions before I let you go on with your whole day. And thank you so much again for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. No, thank you.
I have to ask, because I ask all of the people who come on here, what was your first cool car?
Oh, cool car. Yeah. It was the year, I'm not sure. Oh, it was, it can't be that. Must have been a 1978, probably. Mustang still makes me laugh. Mustang King Cobra. It had a big snake on the hood.
That's a fast car. That's really a fast car.
Yeah, and it was funny because I wanted it. Of course, I could drive. The fact that I could get this car, and I wanted it immediately. I wanted a car, and the only one they had in the lot was like fire engine red with orange pinstripes. What? And a gold snake on the hood.
Oh,
it was horrendous. It was just, but it was so unlike me that I thought, this is good. I'm, reserved and quiet and pretty much and shy. So this is not a shy car.
No.
So why not?
That is amazing.
Yeah, so I got the car.
And I hope there's a photograph that your kids have seen and that they throw right in your face.
Probably. Yeah. I'm sure there is in one of those, in one of those teen magazines or something. I'm sure there's a picture of me, with the car door open or something, sitting in the car.
Now, did you drive the car fast, or were you just really reserved?
Occasionally I did. No, not really. I late at night driving home on a long stretch of Ventura Boulevard or something, and I would, speed through to make all the lights or something, which I shouldn't have done, but I did. But
listening to ABBA or something.
I didn't overdo it because it was stupid because it was red.
Yeah.
Had to be a little careful too.
It's a cool car though. That's a really cool car.
Yeah, it was ugly. It was ugly. And I think the interior, I'm not positive. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I think the interior was a darker red, like a more of a magenta.
So red on red.
Yeah. It was, I'm pretty sure. I don't think it was black. I'm pretty sure it was red, but maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong because, boy, I can't believe I would have gone that far. But
was it convertible?
Anyway, no.
Oh,
no.
All right.
No. My second car was a much more sedate white with navy blue pinstripes, and that car had a navy blue convertible top.
And what kind of car was that?
That was a Mercedes that was stolen, so I didn't have it that long.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I swore off expensive cars after that. I was like, nope, not for me.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I was, I think someone had followed me. I noticed someone following me, and I was really worrying. And obviously, it was that. It was following me to see where I would go and when was a good time to steal my car.
Wow!
And at that time, they were stealing. Those cars were big, and they found it. In the North Valley or whatever, I think it was in Pacoima or something. And I went there to this place, chop shop or something, wherever it was, or that's where they found it. And then it was at this police impound place or what, I can't remember, but it was so sad. Everything was missing. The doors were missing. The, convertible top, even they had gone through the top. I think they made a knife hole in the top, but I'm pretty sure that was missing as well. And the trunk lid, the hood was gone. Of course, the tires and all that was gone. The seats, anything that they could take out, they did. So it was like metal in there. And I was able to recover, I think it was my hairbrush and my keys. I had gone to the gym. That's where I went. And I left my big thing of heavy house keys in the car. I didn't need those at the gym. And I then, of course, had to, had a locksmith come and
yeah, that's scary.
Couldn't even get into my home, let alone get home. So, yeah, it was very. Oh, yeah, and also, I think I got it back. I think the Afghan. I can't remember. My friend had made me an Afghan. And herself, and it was really nice. And I hadn't taken it inside yet. It was in my trunk, I think. And I can't remember if I got that back or not. I think I may have gotten it back. But yeah, everything else was gone.
That's a carpet. And what do you do with everything. That? It's like, oh, here's your car back. It's like, there's no engine. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Right. Of course. And all that too. Yeah. Whatever they could take, they did. Yeah.
So when you first auditioned for the Mary character, I don't know if you remember all, the details of course you don't probably, but because it's a long time ago, but do you know if it was the Mary character that you were after?
Oh, yes. Well, actually I documented all this because, I wrote a book. And that was, I was going to say this before because you were talking about, had I seen the series in a while or something like that. And I did because I had to watch it, as I was writing the book to remind me of certain things. And the audition, the audition was fun. Very fun. Because in the beginning, my agent said it was a Western. I think she may have even said a period Western. And the first interview, I went to meet the NBC brass, all the important NBC people. And that went well. And I met one man whose name was Al Trisconi, and he was the vice president of talent at NBC at the time. And he was very nice. And he said he had a daughter who was 10 years older than I was, but just as pretty as you, or something like that to me. Right. And it was very sweet. Then she, interestingly, worked in our casting office on the series. So that was fun. And, so that was the first interview. And then they narrowed it down. I think there were around 200 girls for each role.
It was a big deal, right? Like
at least for Laura and Mary, I think. And they narrowed that down to probably, I'm guessing, 50 or 25 or something like that to go and read for Mike Landon.
Right. And so this was a big deal, right?
The first interview had been at NBC in Burbank. And then the second one was at Paramount. And that was really fun. My time was like late in the day. It was, I don't know, 5 or something like that. And I read with Mike. He was very nice. And then he walked, I was the last one, I think. And he walked me out, and my mother was waiting in the outer office. And so they met, which I'm sure made my mother's life.
It's like, well, Joe.
And something came up. I think my mother said, I've always enjoyed your performances on Bonanza. And I said, I got to watch, I love the one, ironically, I said, I love the one where you went blind. I hadn't seen many of them, but I'd seen a few. And I said, I've seen some of them, and I especially like that one. And my mother, but then I said, but she was so rude. She put me to bed in the middle of it. And I did. I had to go to bed. And Mike Landon, of course, did his best him. And he's like, what? You put her to bed in the middle of my, and he went on and on. And my mother was mortified. And then she knew, of course, it was a joke, but yeah, so that was funny. And then they narrowed it down again. Yeah. So we could have been 30, 40, 50 girls even then. Then they narrowed it down again to something more like 20-ish, 25 probably. for screen testing. Maybe that was less. That could have been less, 15 or 20. And we were a bunch of Marys and Lauras sitting in a makeshift schoolroom on the set, on the soundstage. And then we would be called out in pairs to do our scenes.
That's awesome.
And so that was fun. And it's funny when you think of all these girls that are competing against each other, having to go to school together. But of course, we were all well behaved and above all that.
Of course.
And
right.
and then and one of my friends, Tracy Savage, was up for Laura. So she and I read she and I read together, I believe, at one point. And then they switched her. They switched her to Mary, and I thought, okay, well, I'm done. Because I think they made her Mary. I thought, okay, well, then I didn't get it. But then we were both go. Oh no!
Oops. Is that you or me?
Sorry,
it's all right.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
So sorry. And anyway, we were both let go. We could go home. We were done. So then we both thought we were probably neither one of us got it. So we knew each other because we were with the same agent at the time. And so we went back to my house and played basketball. So she ended up playing, I think was her name. No, Christy Kennedy or something. She was one of the, other kids that, a semi-regular in the show. So
like
that
the
was fun.
Schoolhouse Friends, right? I just looked it up. She was in 10 episodes, actually.
She was what? Sorry?
She was in 10 episodes, actually.
Right. Yeah. And then she became when she was an adult, she became a newscaster.
Oh,
and she probably did end up going national on the, she worked for NBC in LA, but it probably went national when she was the one breathlessly reporting that OJ had been, what's the word?
When he was
indicted for with the special circumstances and all that because of the murder being with a knife and all and all that. That
she had the breaking news.
she was the one that broke that news. So she might have been national then, but then I think she got out of news, I guess, at some point. But yeah, so that was interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you probably have heard or just assumed, there's a 50th anniversary coming up next year for 2024. And are there any plans for you to join one of these reunions? I know they're trying to do a big one in Simi Valley. I'm not really sure what the plan is. As far as I know, it's basically there's nothing there, as far as I know.
Right.
I'm not really sure what they're going to do. Maybe they'll bring in a hot air balloon or something like that. I'm not really sure. But do you have any plans to kind of, join the 50th anniversary festivities at this point?
Well, I really have never been, I've never done it before. I've only been asked a couple, maybe once or twice or something, I think, over the years. Yeah. But I tend to do the Today Show when they ask us, because that's kind of feels like home because it's NBC. Yeah. and it's nice. And they usually do it like every 10 years and, it's kind of nice.
It's huge.
So if they do that, I would, cause that's, it's fun and it's, it's well organized, obviously. And I, would not have to leave New York, which would be easier.
Yeah.
I have a sick dog, at the moment. So I have to, I'm trying to take care of my dog.
What kind of dog do you have, if you don't mind me asking?
Sorry?
What kind of dog do you have, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I have a Shih Tzu. Oh. And we found her actually in Montreal. It was interesting because I had just come back from my book tour and I was really happy to be home. And and we went to, my son and I went to, he was going to play basketball. So we went to the local high school nearby, Westmount High School, and he shot hoops. And we were walking home, and I saw this out of my like peripheral vision on the right. I saw this streak of white, and then I looked, and it was this cute little dog. And then I realized, well, but it's not on any kind of a leash.
Right.
Like I thought it was one of those like really long leashes that grow.
Yeah.
And no. And it came right up to us, and it had no collar either. And she was so, as it turned out, she was so matted. I thought she had like a tumor on her back, because her little puffy plume tail that curls over usually on her back, it just hung down. And I think it was because it hurt her to put her tail on top of her back, because her back was matted just like 3 inches. It was terrible. And so there was no one around. There were no signs. We looked and looked. And so, we took her to the groomer to see if they could, because we had another dog, if they could, fix her up a little so that she, and that's how we knew. I didn't know she was even a Shih Tzu and the groomer brought her out and said, well, she's a Shih Tzu for sure. And there's her little tail. And she, she still had a few mats that I had to work out with a brush, as we kept her and got to know her. And then I took her to the vet, and the vet said I wouldn't try too hard to find her owner, because she obviously had been mistreated, because she wasn't, in the greatest shape. And so either she was mistreated, or maybe she was left, because at that time, a lot of people were moving, and maybe they couldn't keep their animals.
Yeah, it's such a shame.
To just leave them, right?
It's just a Mary thing to do, to keep the dog.
Yeah. So anyway, so we happily, we had another dog, Davy, a Yorkie, and so we kept her. And so this is now, Davy has passed away, but we still have Dolly. She's Dolly. And she, unfortunately, so now we had to approximate her age. They said they thought she was about a year and a half then. And so she's about 14, going on 15 in November, we think. And but she has Cushing's disease.
Oh, what is that?
So she's like, right now she's I call it prowling. It's like it's not exactly a growl, and it's not exactly a purr. It's a combination. I think she might have been raised with a cat, because it's like this funny little noise, and it vibrates like a purr. And she's so she's in the hungry phase now, the starving. She's starving all the time, but that is much better than the thirsty phase. Because when she's thirsty all the time, she's obsessed with water. She won't look at you. She won't interact with you. She's just obsessed with water, and she won't eat either. She only wants water. And, but when she's hungry, she's making noise now. I can give her broccoli in the middle of the day to keep her happy until dinner. And she's on medication, and she's fortunately now, chewing, believe it or not, her capsules. And I in the beginning, she wouldn't take them. And I was trying to, cover them up with all kinds of things, disguise them with this or that. And I was having a terrible time. And finally, she decided to just eat them. And so thank goodness she's doing that. And she's eating, so it's so much better now.
Well, on that topic, I have 2 dogs. This is why I have a miniature poodle. And I had a Maltese, who we also we adopted, and was very matted when we got him. And he had never gotten trimmed or anything. He was just one big dreadlock. It was terrible. And Yoki, he just passed away 2 weeks ago. So we went through a lot. But he was 16. So it was really tough. But there was nothing we can do. Even the vet said all we can do is make him comfortable and let him just, peacefully go away, and that's exactly what happened. He passed away with us, and that's it. But we love animals.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
But you know what?
It's so tough, It's so tough.
Yeah, but you know what? All we can do is give these dogs the best that we can. But Dolly sounds like she is a good family. So.
Oh, thank you. Well, she is of course part of the family, and I told her, on one of the bad days, I was petting her. I was, sitting on the floor and I was petting her, and she wasn't really, she wasn't looking at me. And I was so sad, and I was petting her, and I was saying, Dolly, just let me know if you're not happy, let me know if you're unhappy, because you don't want them to be miserable.
No, and they're so little, and they're so
that
sweet.
was like that was a bad time. And now I realize that it kind of comes and goes. You every day is different. Luckily right now she's in a much better phase, and I hope it stays this way. But I'm not an idiot. I don't think it will, but it's you just don't want them to be in pain or be miserable.
Yoki went through stuff like what you're talking about like 3 years ago, and then just like snapped out of it. It was like a miracle. And
really?
Yeah, like I remember we brought him. This has nothing to do with Little House. I brought him to get groomed one time, and he got really, really ferocious with the person while cutting his nails because and. Ever since he got ferocious that one time,
right,
he was fine for like 2 years. Like he was he was like a puppy all of a sudden. Like it was almost like he got this shoot, like a shot of adrenaline, and he's like, "Oh, wait a second, I'm a dog," Oh,
that's so funny because I almost thought you were going to say something else. It's very interesting because one of the side effects is oh, what do I mean? I can't think. This is an age thing, I'm sure.
I'm right there with you.
Anyway, that they're easily traumatized, and very they're nervous, and I can't think of the right word, but anyway, and she won't. The groomer basically was not going to groom her anymore because her face, she wouldn't let her do her face. Yeah. And she really needed it around her eyes and around her mouth. And, and it's with her, it's around the mouth, especially.
What? Hello?
Are we back?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I was just...
Hello?
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know what happened, except someone called me and left a message, and maybe that somehow messed things up. I don't know.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no. And I know who it was, and I just hadn't gotten back to him yet. It's in LA, so I had time because it's earlier there. Yeah. But sorry about that.
Oh no, it's totally fine. And yeah, you were saying that your dog is like really, really, he needs it around the mouth, and he's like very.
Oh yeah, right. So anyway, I had to get drugs for her to go to the groomer, and I hate giving them to her, especially now. I just dread it. So she only goes when she's, absolutely has to. And it's the only way. Even then she said she's better.
Mm-hmm. That's
she's
awesome.
Better. I'm like, okay, but at least they'll do her. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we had similar issues with that. Once he got like ferocious, even though he's only like 12 pounds, it was only 12 pounds, I guess it gave our groomer a little bit of a spook.
Right.
It's like, no.
Right.
No.
I'll bet.
He might be white and fluffy, but he's ferocious little Yoki. But yeah, I hope that, I hope your dog feels better. Dolly, right?
Dolly, yeah.
And you had Davy?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, she, they say that, they can live 1 to 2 years, sometimes 3.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I just, really am just taking it one day at a time.
Of course.
And, because having any sort of expectation about, what this day will, tomorrow I'll do this, it's not going to work that way. So, So at least I'm lucky that I can, she's really a lot of trouble, but nice trouble.
Yeah, these little dogs
in the morning. So as long as I can not have to leave here until like noon, then I've got the whole afternoon. She's really good until dinner, and then I have to do all the pills and all that again. But what is
I was gonna say, like, so what is next for you? I mean, you wrote the book, and you're doing your everyday thing. Do you have anything planned any projects that you're working on right now?
Well, I'm pretty much retired. I work occasionally for friends, but I love to play tennis. So I'm playing a lot of tennis. And my son and I, the creative guy, he as a stress reducer, he and I are writing, mainly him. I'm the ideas person. Writing a movie, an animated movie.
Oh, interesting.
Well, anyway, that we thought about it during the pandemic. That would be something that would be not that we're going to have another pandemic, but it would be pandemic proof if it was animated. And but it was, so we're having fun. Just the process is fun. Whether or not anything ever were to happen with it, we both know that whatever. Yeah. But it's fun. And unfortunately, my husband's manager, who sometimes was mine as well, Peter Meyer, I just found out he passed away he had cancer for over 5 years. And then he had a lot of other problems before that. And it's just been so awful. And he passed away on Mother's Day. And it's just been awful the last couple of days since we learned this news, because he was so close. We were so close to him, and he, was really my husband's best friend. And it's just wow.
I'm so sorry awful. To hear that. That's terrible.
But anyway, I don't know how I got onto that, but that's happened as well. So that's kind of
the stuff that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
And even though it's not a shock, it's coming, but he battled this for so long that, you kind of think.
Oh, I lost you again. Hear you again. Maybe this is a sign.
I know. and the conversation.
We're kind of in and out right now. I don't know if you can hear me. Well, if you could pop in, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm just going to say, Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to come on to Walnut GroveCast. You're always welcome to come back and talk about anything that you might be working on. And I really do appreciate it. If you're interested in Melissa's book, it's called The Way I See It. It can be found on Amazon. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. And I think we're about to pop in right here. And there you go. I think you're back.
Are we back?
Yes. But
are we back?
Yes, we're back. But
I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, it's like the FaceTime people are just like, get off.
Yeah, really. Enough already.
But Melissa, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and talking to me. I really appreciate it. When we first spoke, I said, Melissa Anderson's going to be the least likely person to come onto this podcast. She's impossible to get in touch with, and I can't thank Mike enough for reaching out to you. And I think I was right. I think you are very difficult to get in touch with, but I really love talking to you. And I hope that maybe if you ever have an interest in coming back on, the door is wide open. If you ever wanted to review an episode or just, talk about anything going on, I just hope that you realize, the door is wide open.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate it. And also thank you so much for this interesting Animorphs info.
Actually, I want you to just stay on the line for just a moment when we stop recording, because I have another source I wanted to throw your way and see what you thought. But Melissa Anderson wrote a book. It's called The Way I See It. It can be found on Amazon. And I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes and all that kind of good stuff. But again, Melissa, thank you so much. I really can't thank you enough for coming on here.
Thank you, Mark.